So hello everyone, today we are going to see about the topic that is called as a pregnancy induced hypertension. So what if you see in pregnancy induced hypertension? So as this is the part of antenatal part, mother abnormal part. What are the problems to the mother during pregnancy? It is we have seen the hemorrhage during early pregnancy. 95% cause it is the abortion. Then remaining it is a hydatidiform hormone, disturbed ectopic pregnancy. Then the APH, that is antepartum hemorrhage, where the placenta in APH it is abruptio placenta. It is in the upside upper uterine segment, while in placenta previa it is in the lower uterine segment. Then there may be vomiting during the pregnancy, then anemia during the pregnancy. So we have finished all this. So now we are going to see about the topic that is pregnancy induced hypertension. So what is it? So it is a problem stomach during pregnancy. So PIH, long form, pregnancy induced hypertension. It includes two parts, preeclampsia and the eclampsia. What is again types of preeclampsia? It is the mild and severe variety. What is preeclampsia? It is a combination of three, that is proteinuria, edema, and the increase in the BP. How much it is proteinuria? It is increase in the BP. It is 140/90, and if preeclampsia plus convulsion is equal to eclampsia. Preeclampsia plus convulsion is nothing but eclampsia. And this preeclampsia, again there are two varieties, that is mild variety and the severe variety. So just what is meaning of pregnancy induced hypertension? So it is a general terminology. It is a multi-system disorder with varied and still unknown etiology with unpredictable outcome, with increase in maternal and fetal morbidity and mortality. What is morbidity? Some disability. And what is mortality? It is death, that is mortality. So what is it also known as the toxemia of pregnancy? What is toxemia of pregnancy? It is the major cause of maternal mortality in India, and it is associated with poor outcome of pregnancy if uncared for. Why? If you are not giving the proper care during this, it can lead to the problem during the pregnancy. So how much it is the percentage wise? So it is percentage wise, it is about 7 to 15% of all pregnancies. So what is the hypertension in pregnancy? So according to the ACOG, that is the if the diagnosis
So,
diastolic BP, it is
bye.
huh? If diastolic BP, it is if diastolic BP of 90 mm of Hg or higher, or systolic BP of 140 mm of Hg or higher after 20 weeks of gestation in a woman with previously normal BP. That is, it does not that she is already having the hypertension, and then it is not that. If she is having previous no history of the hypertension, but after pregnancy if BP is increases, then it should be considered as a, that is hypertension in pregnancy. It should be documented on at least of two occasions, that is measured 4 hours apart. So it is not that once the BP it is 140/90, you can't diagnose it as a hypertension, but it should be that is uh, that is repeatedly you should have that increase in the BP. How much that is 4 hours apart, that is twice you have to check it. Then proteinuria, because it is defined as the urinary excretion of 300 mg per L or more of protein in a 24-hour urine collection It correlates with the reagent strength, that is more than 1 plus, that is more than 30 mg per dl. So that is hypertension in pregnancy. Then there are a classification of hypertension in pregnancy, that is chronic hypertension with superimposed preeclampsia, and the gestational hypertension. So what is chronic hypertension? That is hypertension present before the 20th week of pregnancy or that present before the pregnancy. And second thing, that is the chronic hypertension with superimposed preeclampsia. So defined as proteinuria developing for first time during the pregnancy in a woman with known chronic hypertension. And the gestational hypertension. So it is the gestational hypertension without proteinuria. So it is developing after 20th weeks of gestation during labor or the puerperium in previously normotensive non-proteinuric woman. So say in three cases. The first case, that is the female patient is already hypertension, and if she is developing pregnancy during that, or if hypertension is present before the 20th week, then it is called as a chronic hypertension. Then chronic hypertension with superimposed preeclampsia. So what is it? So what happens typically, the patient comes with proteinuria first time. She does not have this previous history of proteinuria during proteinuria. Then it is the chronic hypertension. Then gestational hypertension, that is hypertension without proteinuria. Okay, so that is chronic hypertension with superimposed preeclampsia, and the gestational hypertension without proteinuria developing after 20th weeks of gestation during labor or the puerperium in previously normotensive non-proteinuric woman. In third case, what we see that a female, she does not have a proteinuria previously, her urine report is normal. There is no any history of the uh, increase in the BP. But what happens after the pregnancy? All the symptoms, that is increase in the BP, and there is a proteinuria, then that is called as a gestational hypertension. So this is the clinically how can you differentiate between the chronic hypertension with superimposed preeclampsia, and gestational hypertension. Then next one is preeclampsia. So what is preeclampsia? What we say that it is the gestational hypertension associated with the proteinuria. So there is an increase in the BP 140 by 90, proteinuria, edema, then it is the preeclampsia. And if preeclampsia is plus with preeclampsia plus convulsions is called as that of a eclampsia. So it is eclampsia, convulsions occurring in a patient with preeclampsia. And the next one, it is the HELLP syndrome. HELLP, that is HELLP syndrome. So what is it? It is a severe form of preeclampsia which is characterized by a H for hemolysis, that is abnormal PBS, bilirubin level that is more than 1.2 mg per dl, thrombocytopenia, that is platelets counts, it is less than 1 lakh per mm3, and elevated liver enzyme. So H for hemolysis, EL for elevated liver enzymes, and then LP for low platelets. So how you can, that is this one, HELLP syndrome. And how much the liver enzymes, that is AST more than 70 U per L, that is LDH more than 600 U per L. It is HELLP syndrome. It is in the severe cases if there is a hemolysis takes place. So what is it? It consists of hemolysis, elevated liver enzymes, and the low platelets, LP last. So what is the incidence of it? It is from the incidence point of view. It is rate, it is 4 to 12% in preeclampsia and associated with high mortality and morbidity. Why we are giving the importance to this? Because in this there is a high mortality, that is the death rate is more, and the morbidity, that is the disability is more. So it is a diagnostic criteria, that is on that basis we can diagnose, that is hemolysis. Already what we are saying, that is more than bilirubin is more than elevated liver enzymes, and the platelet count, it is less. If this is the same, then we have to think about there is something definitely a serious matter. So now what is important, because we have to manage this health syndrome very seriously, because it needs the immediate hospitalization, then you stabilize the mother, that is you have to stabilize and keep the antihypertensive and anti-seizure prophylaxis, that is we have to prevent the seizure and correct the coagulation abnormalities, because there is a lot of hemolysis, so associated fetal condition. Along with that, we don't have to monitor only the mother, we have to monitor both, that is fetus also. So that is fetal monitoring is important, that is fetal heart rate we have to monitor, we have to do the Doppler ultrasound, and definitely we have to think about the biophysical profile. So first, now we are going to see about the pre-eclampsia. Pre means something before to that of eclampsia. So what is the definition point of view? See, it is a multi-system. It is not a one single system it is involved. It is the multi-system involvement with the disorder of unknown etiology. Why this is happening, we don't know. So it is the multi-system disorder of unknown etiology, which is characterized by the development of hypertension to the extent of 140 by 90 mm of Hg or more, with proteinuria after the 20th weeks in a previously normotensive and normoproteinuric woman. Means, if you ask the past history, if you ask whether you are if you ask the history, that if any female comes to you with that of some 7 months amenorrhea, and if you ask her history and you observe that during the examination the BP is more 140 by 90, then what you if you ask, that is if she is suffering from hypertension previously, she says no, I don't have any history of hypertension. uh, or if you ask, if you do the urine examination, there is a proteinuria, and if you ask the history, so there is no any history of proteinuria. So if you send the urine sample and you see that there is a proteinuria, so if this is the same, then you can think about this is the preeclampsia, and there definitely there is a edema on the legs. So if you do the examination, there is edema on the legs, so that is proteinuria. So incidence point of view, in hospital, it varies widely from 5% to that of 15%. And the incidence wise, it is the incidence, it is wise, it is primary gravida. What is primary? It says the first time pregnant, then it is called as a primary gravida. Is about 10%. And multigravida. Multi means already given birth to the live birth is she has given. The multigravida, multiple. From the word we can understand. Gravida, that is pregnancy, is 5%. So if any female is present, first time pregnant, the chances it is more as compared to that of multigravida. And what is it? It is more common in women with chronic hypertension with an incidence of approximately 25%. So if we see that is if a female is already received the diagnosis with that of chronic hypertension, known case of hypertension, and if she is then in that cases, so chances of preeclampsia it is more. So that is from the incidence. What is incidence? That out of 100, how many new patients of preeclampsia, if you are having OPD of pregnant female, pregnant means or gynec OPD, OPS OPD of 100. So in that 5% to 10%, how many new cases you are finding out of 100, how many new cases of preeclampsia you are finding, then it is called as an incidence. So that is the meaning of incidence. So what is the predisposing factors? So it may be primigravida more than multigravida. That what I already explained it. So it is existing hypertension, that is she's already having the hypertension, then previous preeclampsia. If she is in the previous pregnancy, she is having the history of preeclampsia or family history of preeclampsia, that is her mother is also having the similar complaints of preeclampsia, or hyperplacentosis, that is excessive chorionic tissue, as what we are saying in hereditary hormone. Whatever the pathophysiology, that is excess of chorionic tissue in the hereditary hormone, and if there is a multiple pregnancy, that is twins, and uncontrolled diabetes mellitus and fetal hemolytic disease. That is, if she is having the known case of DM and if she becomes pregnant in that case. So that, and if the diabetes is uncontrolled, HbA1c is remaining high, that more than about 7, 8, that is the that is glycosylated hemoglobin is also more, and even there is a fetal hemolytic diseases are there. So there are chances it leads to preeclampsia. And even if the female is obese, her that is weight, it is if BMI it is more than of the basal metabolic rate, body mass index. BMI is body mass index. It is more than some if it is 25, and if along with that or she is obese and if she becomes pregnant, then chances of preeclampsia are obvious it is more. Then new paternity and the thrombophilias are there. So these are the some predisposing factors which are responsible for the preeclampsia. So what is the pathophysiology, that what we are going to think about it? So it is the uteroplacental bed that is which is responsible. So immunological factors may be responsible. Then genetic factors is also there. Then renin-angiotensin system. Then and that's why it is called as a multi-system disorder. Then atrial natriuretic peptide AMP, prostaglandins are responsible, neutrophils are responsible. So that is the pathophysiology. And there is a diagnostic criteria, that is hypertension, edema, and proteinuria. Characteristics. See, these three characteristics are important. Hypertension, that is BP more than 140/90, edema, and proteinuria. If these three things are present, then definitely it is a preeclampsia. And then the categories, that is the mild variety and the severe variety. That is mild preeclampsia and severe preeclampsia. So now clinically how you are going to say it. So there is a mild variety, there is a slight swelling over the ankle region. That edema you are going to see. It is not on the upper part, not on the shin. And it is gradually swelling, may be extend to the face, abdominal wall, vulva, even the full body. But it is gradual. That is called as a mild variety. And what are the alarming signs that what we have to think about? So it is the headache is there. So there is a disturbed sleep is there. So diminished urinary output. So headache, the patient is not having the disturbed sleep, diminished urinary output, and the epigastric pain, that is abdominal pain, epigastric pain, and the some eye symptoms, that is the blurring, the vision is not clear, then the scotomata, dimness of vision, that is the vision is not proper, or at times complete blindness may be there. And vision usually regained within the 4 to 6 weeks of following the delivery. But what we observe over here, that is after the delivery, whatever the problems related with the eyes are decreased. So that is the same that what we are going to see in the this one, preeclampsia. So that is how the this one clinically we are going to see. Then from the signs. So what is the signs of this? So it is the abnormal weight gain or the abnormal weight gain, rise in the blood pressure, edema. What is weight gain? Normal weight gain of 11 kg during the pregnancy, it is okay. But if it is more than that, then definitely it is the abnormal weight gain. Rise of blood pressure, edema is on there, and there is no manifestation of cardiovascular or renal pathology. And sometimes there is a pulmonary edema, and the abdominal examination main evidences of chronic placental insufficiency, such as scanty liquor or growth retardation of the fetus. So what if we do the ultrasonography, what we observe that the amniotic fluid it is less than the normal, then there is a whatever the growth that should be takes as with that of gestation, so it is not taking place. So there is a growth retardation. So whatever the femur length, whatever the head circumference, it is not proper as compared to the gestation period. So that is called as a growth retardation. So amniotic fluid it is less. Then as previously in symptoms we have seen blurring, scotomata, that is partial loss of vision, or something. Sometimes there is a blind spot in the if you see the vision, there is a black blind spot are seen, and this is the partial. After delivery it subsides. So that is one. Then complications. So it is the immediate complications, immediate, that is immediately that what we say, and late also. So what is meaning of immediate, and to whom it get complications? But obviously to the mother, and definitely to the fetus, because we are dealing with obstetrics, that is both mother and the fetus. So what are the complications to the mother? So there are complications in pregnancy, even the complications even after the delivery, that is after the labor. Okay, so fine. What are the complications to the mother? So during the pregnancy, there is the eclampsia. What is meaning of eclampsia? So female may go into the convulsions. And how much in percentage wise? It is 2%. Then there may be severe accidental hemorrhage can take place. And there is the oliguria and anuria. Oliguria, that is less the urine than the normal. And anuria, absence of urine. So absence of urine is there. Then the dimness of vision, even blindness, that is the preterm labor, preterm labor, that is labor which takes place before the means normal labor takes place after completion of 40 weeks. But here the labor takes place before the 40 weeks, that is at the 37th of weeks. And there is a HELLP syndrome, that is what I have already explained. H for hemolysis, E for elevated liver enzymes, and P for low platelet. If this combination syndrome, where there is a group of symptoms and signs comes together, that is syndrome. And cerebral hemorrhage. Sometimes there is a hemorrhage takes place in the cerebral, and it can lead to the problem with the respiratory, that is ARDS, stand for acute respiratory distress syndrome. And during labor, there is eclampsia. There may be postpartum hemorrhage, that is severe bleeding can take place. And during the puerperium, that is after the delivery, again there is eclampsia, again there is a shock, again there is a, that is if patient eclampsia can take place. See this common word, eclampsia, eclampsia, eclampsia. That is convulsions can take place during the pregnancy, convulsions can take place during the labor, convulsions can take place even after the delivery within 6 weeks. And what is puerperium? It is the time after delivery. What happens is, that is whatever the changes which take place during the pregnancy, it comes to the non-pregnant state. That is called as puerperium. What is the time period? It is divided into 3 parts: immediate, early, and late puerperium. What is immediate? That is immediately 24 to 48 hours after the delivery, early 4 to 5 days after the delivery, and late up to 6 weeks after the delivery. So that is called as the puerperium. So even there is a convulsions which can take place during the pregnancy, convulsions can take place during the labor, convulsions can take place after the labor. So what we see that this here, eclampsia, 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 but common in all these 3 stages. And sometimes it may lead to that. But if there is a severe hemorrhage, can lead to that shock, and there is an infection, or it can lead to the septic condition. So that is called as sepsis. That is, if it is taking place after the delivery, it is called as puerperial sepsis. And it creates a problem to that of the fetus also. So what is the problem? That is IUD. What is IUD? There are two terminologies. IUCD, that is intrauterine contraceptive device. And what is IUD? It is intrauterine death. It is IUCD, it is contraceptive. And IUD, it is intrauterine death of fetus. And sometimes even can be to the growth, means whatever the growth of the that fetus takes place, that whatever the length or height, the weight of the fetus, growth of the organs, whatever it. So whatever the growth, it is not taking place as per the gestation, and then it is called as a intrauterine growth retardation. IUGR, or their second terminology is small for dead fetus. That may be on another terminology. And then there may be asphyxia. Asphyxia, that is the difficulty in the oxygen supply to the fetus, and the prematurity. That may be the problem. And the remote means after some time. Time, it will take the time. Then after some time, that is if she is suffering from a preeclampsia during the pregnancy, then afterwards she may, there is a residual hypertension, or there may be recurrent preeclampsia, there may be chronic renal disease she may suffer from that. And sometimes placental abruption, that is what we are abruption placenta, that can be the disease. So definitely, what is the management? It is stop preeclampsia. That is, we have to prevent her from going to the eclampsia. So first, what we have to stop it, but obviously, you have to stop the preeclampsia. So how you can do it? So proper general measures we can take it, both that is for the maternal and for the fetus. We have to monitor both. Here, that is maternal. Proper blood pressure we have to take it. That is twice, morning, evening. Then urine volume and the protein urine. That is how much urine output it is. Then how protein urine daily we have to check it. Proper checking of edema. Examination, we have to take the edema checking daily on the shin of the legs. Then the body weight twice daily. Then the fundus oculi once weekly. Blood picture including platelet count, liver and renal functions, particularly serum uric acid on admission. So why we are doing all these things, platelet and liver? Because we have to prevent the HELLP syndrome. Because what is elevated liver enzymes and all these things? So that is, we have to do the liver function and the renal function. And for platelet, we have to do the blood picture. And for the fetus, how can you monitor it? Daily fetal movement count. That is, we have to do the movement, fetal movement. Then we have to follow the ultrasonography and non-stress and stress test if needed. That is SOS we have to think about it. And what we can think, it is a proper prophylactics. What we have to do. What is meaning of prophylactics? That is prevention. So what is it? It is proper antenatal care to detect the high-risk patients who may develop PIH through the screening test. That is what we have to do. Then early detection of cases who have already developed PIH, examine them more frequently. If you find out there is an increase in the BP, so do the follow frequently and do the early screening of it. That is pregnancy, during the second month, third month, do the proper routine checkup. Then the low dose aspirin can be advised. It eliminates the thrombosis production from the platelets and all the binding sites from the platelets. So that is, you can think about a low dose of aspirin 620 daily. You can think about it. And last one is that of the curative, that what you have to think about. Delivery of the fetus and placenta is the only real treatment for preeclampsia. So we have to think about the delivery. So as the conditions are not always suitable for this, the treatment aims to prevent or minimize the maternal and fetal complications. Reasonable maturation of the fetus. But when we have to do the delivery, that is, till there is a maturation of the fetus. That is reasonable maturation of the fetus. So that is what we have to think about the preeclampsia. So just I have finished only the preeclampsia. So division. So preeclampsia. So what is it? The pregnancy-induced hypertension. It is antenatal, mother, abnormal. What are the problems? Hemorrhage in early pregnancy, 95% abortion, then antepartum hemorrhage, abruptio placenta, placenta previa, then vomiting if excessive, that is hyperemesis gravidarum, then anemia, then pregnancy-induced hypertension. What is pregnancy-induced hypertension? Preeclampsia and eclampsia. What is preeclampsia? Increase in the BP 140 by 90, proteinuria plus edema, and preeclampsia plus convulsion is equal to eclampsia. Types: mild and severe. What is it? It is multisystem disorder. Why it is not known? Affecting both mother and children. Second synonym, toxemia of pregnancy. What is criteria? BP should be 140 more than or 140 by 90 after 28 weeks of gestation, and proteinuria. Types: classification of hypertension in pregnancy: chronic hypertension with superimposed preeclampsia, and gestational hypertension. Here it is without proteinuria, but everything after 28 weeks. Then preeclampsia, that is gestational hypertension associated with proteinuria, and if preeclampsia plus convulsion is eclampsia. Then syndrome, elevated liver hemolysis, H hemolysis, EL for elevated liver enzymes, LP for low platelet. Management: hospitalization, stabilize mother with antihypertensive, anti-seizure prophylaxis. If any coagulation abnormalities, definitely we have to correct it and monitor both mother and fetus, that is FHR, fetal heart rate, Doppler ultrasound, and biochemical profile. Preeclampsia. Combination of increase in the BP by 140 by 90, proteinuria and edema, which is previously normotensive and non-proteinuria. Coma. Incidence 5% to 3%. Predisposing factor, that is previously more in primary gravida, pre-existing hypertension, previous preeclampsia, family history of preeclampsia, obesity, no paternity, thrombophilias, and hyperplacentosis. Then pathophysiology, that is what the genetic factor, renin-angiotensin system is responsible. Atrial natriuretic peptide, prostaglandin, neutrophils, immunological factors, uteroplacental bed. Diagnostic: definitely it is the hypertension, edema, proteinuria. Types: mild and severe. Symptoms: swelling on the ankle, which is gradually increasing to the body, headache, disturbed sleep, diminished urinary output, pain in the abdomen, epigastric region, eye symptoms. Abnormal signs: abnormal weight gain, increase in the BP, edema. Then the pulmonary edema comes in, abdominal examination we have to review. Complications to the mother and complications during the pregnancy, during labor, and after delivery. Eclampsia is common all over this. Complications to the fetus: IUD, death, improper growth, asphyxia, prematurity. And afterwards problem: residual hypertension, recurrent eclampsia, renal disease, and placental abruptio placenta. Management of the mother, management of the fetus, proper monitoring, daily BP checking, proteinuria daily, urine volume daily, edema daily, everything daily, and then body weight and fundus ocular, body weight twice weekly, and fundus ocular once weekly. Proper blood picture for hemolysis, renal function, liver function, and fetal, proper monitoring of the ultrasonography, daily fetal movement, that what we have to observe it, proper antenatal care. Then curative, we have to think about the delivery, depending upon the maturation of the fetus. And this is that's what we have finished today about the preeclampsia. So we have finished about the antepartum and the preeclampsia. Thank you very much. If you have any query, please let me know so that I can solve it. Thank you.